Hello, everyone. So this is the part three of our lab, and this we'll go ahead and install the compute services on our controller node or on our AI node. If you recall from our topology that we are doing a two-node installation, so we will be installing some of the Nova services on our compute node. So the compute service is a cloud computing fabric controller, which is the main part of your infrastructure as a service system. It's a host and manages cloud computing system. Again, the computer interacts with the identity service for authentication, which is Keystone, image services for images, which is our project Glance, and the dashboard that we haven't installed. We will be doing that later. Again, we know that access to images is limited by the projects and the users and some of the other things. So we'll go ahead and start service installation on our AIO node. So the first part, as you can see, we are already logged onto the our AIO node. We will simply go ahead and source our credentials files. We'll go ahead and start installing the compute packages, which is going to provide the compute services that are going to run on the controller node. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So you can see we are installing a couple of things. We are installing a Nova API, Nova cert functionality. If you want to do SSL with the PKI, Nova Conductor, which is something new with the Icehouse release. If you recall in the previous version, we had the projects and they interacting directly with the database. Now instead of directly communicating with the database, we have think of a conductor as a proxy between the other components and your MySQL database. And some of the other things that I'm sure you're familiar, like the console auth, NovaNC, and our scheduler. And we are installing our Python clients on the AIO node. So let's go ahead and start doing the install. Once that is done, we'll go ahead and install a couple of more packages like Nova Compute, KVM, and some of the Python guest file systems. Once that's done, we will go ahead and make our current kernel readable, and so that our, as usual, stack override with our Debian package will use the update option. We'll make sure the root is the user with correct file permissions on our current running kernel. Once that's done, we'll go ahead and configure as usual our database for our compute services. We'll go ahead and name that as Nova. And once that's done, we'll go ahead and configure a Keystone user again for Nova. If you recall that again, compute needs to be authenticated against our identity service. For that, we need a user. So we'll go ahead and configure the Nova user, and we also make sure that's part of the tenant service. And we'll go ahead and assign the role of role admin. Once that's done, let's go. We'll find out what is our running kernel version name, and we'll go ahead and make sure we set the appropriate permissions. So to do that, you can use the uname -r, so you can see we are in 3.10.0-36 generic. So let's go ahead and stack override update dash dash add certificate and some of the other, and I guess that pretty much matches what we have. So once that is done, now let's go ahead and configure the database and some other things. And as we have seen so far, by default, Ubuntu package creates a SQLite database. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing like for the Nova also. We will go ahead and delete that one because we are using MySQL over here. Let's go ahead and create our Nova user. So we have our Nova user created and assign the appropriate roles. Now let's go ahead and update our NovaCon file, which is again located under etc Nova directory. So we'll go ahead and start editing some of the files here. And you can see there are not much into this file, so we'll go ahead and start typing some of the things. I will explain few things, and the rest of the things you can pretty much find out on the OpenStack.org. What they mean, why do we need, and some of their details. Now we'll go ahead and define some parameters for our VNC like my IP, VNC servers, listen IP, proxy client IP, and the URL. We're using our management interface for that. So hopefully you got few of the details, and I'm sure they were pretty much self-explanatory section for our keystone or token, which doesn't exist by default into the new version of the Icehouse. So we'll go ahead and create those. Now let's go ahead and save this file and exit out, and let's go ahead and select our KVM, our compute type. Are we going to use KVME? Are we using the KVM? What's by default? If you see, the word types is KVM, but for this demo we'll be using the QEM. And let's go ahead and save the file. Once that is done, as usual, we'll go ahead and create a service, and we'll go and create an endpoint for the same. So let's raise the computer service and specify the endpoint. I'm sure by this time you're familiar how to do that. It's create service, create, and we'll go ahead and give it a name. Nova type equals to compute. And let's go ahead and give it a description of service. And you can see we got an ID. Let me just copy the ID as usual. We'll go ahead and create an endpoint. And you can see that we're using a different port number here, 8774 is used by the Nova. Let me go ahead and copy and paste this from my notepad. So let me I just type that in the notepad to hide the typos on the command line. So let me go ahead and paste that, and you can see I'm just running the awk instead of typing this time manually, and tenant IDs and some of the other things. And let's go ahead and press enter. If everything looks good, I would see that our tenant IDs and some of the things got created and everything looks good. And start our services. So to create the database, we will use the our same syntax that we have been using. Python manage db sync. And if you notice that we are not giving a dash, that's a different option with the Nova. And let's go ahead and specify that option. It's generating a lot of stuff. And our tables are created now. Time to go ahead and restart our services. So if you recall from our apt-get, we installed a couple of things like Nova API, Search Console Auth, Scheduler, Conductor, Nova ENC Proxy, and Nova Compute. So pretty much plenty of services. So let's go ahead and restart those services. And let's have a look at all of services. So, boom, okay, all of services are up. Let's give it some time. It should be, all should be happy, and let's verify the status of our computer. So you would see the computer is running. So now our service list. So our computer is running using anything, so that's fine. And if you want to see some of the logs, you can grab log Noah, and you can see with the AI at this stage. You can get to see some of. Let's look at the Noah compute logs. And you can see that's right. Look at the logs and some of the things. Let's look at the schedule. Again, I had a typo, grab a password, and yes. Okay, let me go ahead and restart the services, all of my services once again. So let's grab server, and let me restart all of the services again. If you want, you can do like this also. If you see the number says 182 and 183, I can just type 182 and 183, which is indeed is the what I wanted to do. And let's do 186 now. And you can see the services are up now. And hopefully everything should be up this time. Let's look at the scheduler. Okay, so now we can see it's connected to the AMQP on this server. And let's look at the conductor. Conductor is also talking to the other RabbitMQ server on this particular one. Okay, all of our service looks happy and looks great. So that was pretty much on we learned how to install the Nova and how to look some of the files and the log files you saw. We did some basic troubleshooting because I had fat fingers. I did some typos, but looks like everything is up and running. Thank you.